It's time for No Pad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome to another edition of No Pad Sports Talk. I am one of your hosts, JD.
And I'm Steve, and it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen all you guys, so, it's good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back. I know I had to do a solo show last week. It wasn't quite the same.
Yeah, it's, when you don't have that feedback and, the conversation, it's just you giving the news, basically.
It's like a monologue. Yeah. But I did my best. Hopefully it wasn't too bad.
No.
But at any rate, what we're looking to do today, though, is there's a lot of news we want to go over real fast before we can talk about anything else.
Absolutely. So let's start with the NBA, all right? So while I'm not a huge basketball fan, right? The NBA Finals is set. We got the Dallas Mavericks and Boston Celtics in the finals. And, Boston kind of walked into the finals, 4-1, 4-1, 4-0 into the finals, where the Mavericks, had a little bit more of a fight where they were 4-2, 4-2, 4-1. They are the fifth seed, where the Celtics are the number one seed. We were talking a little bit offline about some of the players on each team, and it just seems like, Boston's just a powerhouse right now with that team, the way they're built. So kind of, are they going to start the new dynasty there in Boston with the Celtics?
Two of my favorite players in the NBA, even though I'm not a huge fan, right? I understand that, but still, I got a couple players that I like in the NBA. One is Jaylen Brown and one is Luka. So, two of my favorite players are set to square off, so that makes it fun for me. Just looking at it, though, Boston seems a little tough for the Mavs to be able to contain right now for me. I think Boston's gonna walk away with this one, really.
Yeah, I don't know that Boston's coming in rested, right? At least a little bit, right? They have one less game. They got a few less games on their players than the Mavericks do. But I can tell you that I would have to, it'd be hard to bet against Boston. How's that? Bill Walton just passed away, right, here recently, and he was a Celtic at the end of his career, right? So I think it would be it'd be cool, right? Celtics wins the championship, and has it's a final moment for Bill Walton and his family, to see the Celtics back with the trophy.
Yeah, I'm kind of, overall, though, I think I'm kind of rooting for Dallas on this one.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think Boston will win, but I'm kind of rooting for Dallas.
You like the underdogs.
I really kind of do.
Yeah.
There's always some other reason why with me, and in this scenario, it's just I got some investments in Luka that I'm looking to capitalize on. So,
yeah, well, if you haven't started buying any Jaylen Brown cards, you might want to start doing that.
No, you're right. I definitely should.
Yeah. But I think Boston walks away with this. I think it's 4-1. I don't think it'll go more than 5 games. That's just my guess. I'm kind of going off the average of what I've seen them play so far this year through the playoffs. you know. But you know, we play the games, because anything can happen during the game, right? So that's why we play. So that's kind of where we are with the NBA Finals. So Pistons news though, did you hear that they fire? I think they either fired our general manager or they're getting ready to fire our general manager.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumors. I haven't heard that he was actually fired.
So I did see something. It just says they're reportedly parting ways.
Yeah, it's reported. Yeah.
Yep. So I did see that, kind of, being that we're, a Michigan based podcast, got to throw that little bit of a piece in there. So maybe they'll start. I can't say it's always the general manager's fault, right? But if you look at where the Tigers are, and that's a whole other situation, right? They brought in a bunch of players that were specifically one that we're stuck with for now, right? So there is definitely some blame to be had there. I think that it comes down to its coaching, it's the players themselves, and maybe they just don't gel, right?
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at it this way. When you look at what he's done over his 4 seasons in Detroit, I mean, the Pistons went 74 and 244 for a 303 winning percentage.
Yeah.
And the best win total over that span was 23 games. I don't really care like who you are. Like over the course of 4 years, like you just can't come away with that type of record and expect to keep your job.
Exactly. Unless they were it was the Matt Millen time, I guess, for the Lions.
I don't even want to talk about that.
I just wanted to see the face when I mentioned his name. It's like you almost have that vomit face. You're like,
I don't know any Detroit fans that wouldn't every time that name is brought up.
I agree. But that's why it's nice to have someone on the other mic.
Yeah, exactly.
We can have these kinds of conversations. So best of luck to both those teams. Obviously, you can't get to the finals unless you've been playing well. So but good luck to both teams. I still think the Celtics win in 4-1. But that's where I'm at with that. So, and then let's go ahead and step right into the NHL, where Florida is already in to the finals. They are waiting on a team to play. Dallas and Edmonton are at 3-2 in the Western Conference Finals there, and with Edmonton up 3, or they're 3-2 Edmonton. So Edmonton wins the next game, then obviously they're going to be in. I mean, Dallas could pull it off and win 2 the next 2 and still make it. I know your buddy.
They do play tonight, as an FYI.
Yeah,
they 8:00 tonight Eastern.
So are they in Florida?
No,
in Dallas.
They're going to be playing at Edmonton.
Or not Florida. I'm sorry, Edmonton. That's what I meant to say.
Okay, I was a little confused at first, there, brother.
Yeah, my bad.
But yeah, they're in Edmonton.
So, and I know you've watched a little bit of the Dallas Stars. At least I know you've had conversations with people you work with.
Yeah, like due to a very good friend of mine who's a Dallas Stars fan, I kind of keep up with them more than any other team, I'd say, except of the Red Wings, of course.
Yep.
And Wyatt Johnston has been really impressive as far as this playoff run has gone. But Connor McDavid with Edmonton, just unstoppable right now.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Connor McDavid's just unstoppable. There's nothing else to say.
So let's see. How did the Red Wings finish this year? Because I know right near the end they had an opportunity where they could have been the wild card team, and then they lost the games they needed to win. So Yeah, they were 41-32. They had 91 points, and the Washington Capitals must have had the tiebreaker because they got in with 91 points before the Red Wings did into the wild card. Oh, for the wild card. My bad. They were one game out of the wild card. Yeah.
It was I know it came down to like the second to last game of the season.
Yep.
And that's so they missed the playoffs the 8th season in a row. The Moritz Seider is going to be a free agent, and that's a little concerning to me because he's one of their better players too. So,
yeah. Well, this year's team seemed like they were a little better off than last year's team, right? As far as schedule or record wins.
Yeah, they definitely improved, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they were 35-37 last year with 10 overtime losses. So, 6 extra wins. So, we're close. I don't know how close. I don't watch a lot of hockey, to be honest with everybody, but I don't. But I know right there at the end, I was following it a little bit, just kind of keeping an eye like in the news and where they were at because it was a big deal because the Red Wings were perennials into the playoffs for a long time.
Yeah, like over 20 years, I think they made the playoffs.
Yep.
But look, the draft for the NHL is going to be June 28th, about a week before the MLB draft.
Yep.
And Red Wings have the 15th pick in that draft. So yeah, they definitely are improving because now they're picking in the teens as opposed in the top 10. However, in my opinion, before even looking to the draft, you got to have Steve Yzerman looking to re-sign Raymond and Seider. I really think Moritz Seider is primary there on that one, but Raymond supplied a lot of additional offensive value too during the season. He had 31 goals and 41 assists. But
that's a lot of points.
Yeah. He had 72 points total in 82 games, right?
Yeah.
And he's gonna be a free agent this year. So he definitely now Raymond and Seider are both saying they want to remain a Red Wing. Mm-hmm. And what would be really nice too is I'd love to see Seider play next to Edvinsson. Edvinsson's like their top player in the so-called minors right now. And of course, they're both defensemen. Having both of them playing together, I think would make their defense really tough. And I'd love to see them play with each other one day. But anyway, you got to re-sign those two before you even look at the draft, in my opinion.
All right. So that's kind of our quick Red Wings there. Let's just finish it up with, we know Florida's in. Who do you think gets in between Edmonton and Dallas?
Edmonton.
Okay. And then if you had to go and pick between Florida and Edmonton, who do you take?
I think Florida has a better overall team, but I think Edmonton, it depends on Edmonton just depends on one thing is how good their stars play. That's it.
Okay.
But I think Florida's a better overall team, so I'm going to go with Florida.
Okay. Well, it took me longer to get an answer out of you than I was expecting. I thought you were just going to shout out Florida. So,
well, I get it, but
yeah, because I'm going to take Florida too. So,
well, because you took Florida, I'm going to go Edmonton just because.
All right. Well, there you go. All right. So if it's Florida and Edmonton in the finals, how many games do they play total?
6.
6. All right. That's what I was going to pick too. So we're just going to stick with that.
Yeah. I mean,
all right. And then
Yep.
finally, something we haven't really talked about a whole lot this year, or since this for their season, was the UFL. So it's
Right.
the combination of the old USFL and the XFL. And Michigan does have its team, the Michigan Panthers. I was watching the highlights from their game from yesterday. It was a nail biter there at the end. Um, but they are in the playoffs. They've been in the playoffs. I was looking at the standings. It was pretty much they've probably been in the guaranteed in for the last couple of weeks because
Yep.
everyone else in their conference is 1-8. So you got Birmingham at 9-1, which seems to always, if you look back through the USFL, Birmingham has been an incredible team. So Michigan finished 7-3. They actually lost to Birmingham and was winning that game until late, and had an opportunity to win it with a kick from Bates, and he just pushed it right. I was telling JD when I looked at it, it was like he didn't swing all the way through the ball, and it looked like he was trying to do a little chip shot, and he left the face of the club open, and it just went right. Like it went right immediately. Like as soon as he kicked it, he bent over and he knew he missed it. Like it wasn't even close at all. So they had an opportunity there right at the end of the game. They had a bunch of penalties at the end of the game too that kind of put them way out. They were first and goal at the 4, and then they ended up, it was first and goal or fourth and goal from the 32. So they, had a kick, pretty decent field goal there to win it. But Bates has that leg that we all know about. He kicked that 64-yarder early in the season. His overall average wasn't too great. I was looking at that. But he does have a big leg. So I'm not sure. There was always this talk about the Lions wanting to go get him. They need to sign him to a blah, 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 right? But, he's played a whole season now. I think he was 15-22 on field goals, 16-22 for the season. So, but anyway, you got Birmingham and Michigan playing. And then you have, I'm sorry, I had to look again. St. Louis and San Antonio playing in the other conference. So the XFL conference has St. Louis and San Antonio playing. The USFL conference is Birmingham versus Michigan. And those start next week. Winners of those games will play for the championship. I think Michigan exposed, just from what I could see, looks like they exposed Birmingham a little bit. They were able to get to the quarterback. But maybe they showed too much, and Birmingham has a week now to kind of review that tape. So you never know what you're going to get. But I'm going to take Michigan. I think Michigan's got enough to beat them. And it'd be awesome if another Michigan team wins a championship, because we already have one. We already got one Michigan national championship, right?
Right.
So if we
But
can get a UFL championship, that would be really cool.
you just got to keep this year into perspective, though, because I know they lost 3 games, but during that time, that the full season, they had 4 quarterbacks because of injuries.
Yeah.
And they're still able to finish 7-3.
Yep.
So like Michigan has an overall solid team, and but the quarterback play has not been stellar. Just again having 4 of them coming in and out because of injuries.
Right. And I mean, they lost to Birmingham yesterday by 1 point. A loss is still a loss. I get that, right? A loss is a loss, but it is a 1 point loss, right? So I'm just wondering, how close that, those games were, on those losses.
Right. But I mean, look, they had the problem I see with Michigan too is like the defense had 5 sacks in that game versus Birmingham, but in the final 13 minutes they had nothing.
Right.
So like again, and Birmingham's quarterback Martinez, like when they were down because they scored with just like less than a minute to play, something like that.
Yep.
And on that final drive, like he completed 5 passes and rushed for another 10 yards. Again, without any sort of sacks on him. So, it's exactly what you're saying, right? Like, did Birmingham learn something? And maybe they did, because that final drive and the final 13 minutes in general, there was no sacks, not very much pressure, and that allowed them to come back into the game.
Yeah. So they lost to Birmingham twice. They lost 20-13 the first time. So that was not. And then we'll call it kind of a blowout. It was 19-9 against San Antonio. So, but other than that, you can, with all the quarterback play that they've had, they're still scoring points. So the offense is pretty good. All things considered.
Yeah,
when you have that many quarterbacks come in and have to play the game. So, but yeah, I'm going to pick Michigan to go all the way just because that's what I do.
Yeah, got to be a homer on this. I'll also pick Michigan. You got to be a homer.
You got
go Michigan.
Right? Unfortunately, they're playing in Birmingham again, so it's like,
right.
And then the championship game's in St. Louis. So we're not going to get an opportunity to see. We're going to go another season and not see a UFL game. So we got to make that change.
Agreed.
So, but that's kind of a quick update, I guess. I say quick, it's been 20 minutes. But, around the sports world, JD and I talked a lot about the WNBA. I shouldn't say a lot. We've been talking about it a little bit before we started the show. And just, how that's been going and how much media attention it's been getting. Mostly, I guess, is the biggest thing, is the fact that you hear about it every single day now, right? In the past, I mean, you could have gone a whole season and not heard one news story about the WNBA.
Yep.
So you can call it the Caitlin Clark effect, but while that might be true, I still think that it's about all those other young players as well, right? Like, there's a lot of talent, a lot of young talent that's out there that's playing for the WNBA, and I think it's infused some life into the WNBA.
I agree, but I think it all started with the women's Final Four 2 years ago, right? I think that's where all the interest came in at, and then as people were just, stayed interested in that, they stayed interested this year, following everything that happened last year.
Correct.
And the intrigue just kind of, just continued. Well, then to top it all off, now you got those same players that people are following going into the WNBA. And I think that's where the interest is coming from. So you're right. Yeah. It's from everybody in general. But I think for the most part, the intrigue comes from a couple different individuals. And one is definitely Caitlin Clark. Like, the Caitlin Clark effect is real, but there is still a lot of other players that are obviously providing viewership.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Caitlin Clark, she's not scoring 30 points a game, right? But I don't. It's a different league. You can't. Her game translates. It's just going to take some time, right? But I can say that about any of the ladies that came out from college to the pro level. You can say that about any player, right? I mean, last year or 2 years ago, Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy, right? Last year, he didn't look like a Heisman Trophy winner.
Right.
Right? So it doesn't matter the sport. The game just is different at that next level, and it takes time to adjust.
That's going to take time to adjust, but I'll tell you one thing, though. I don't know if you've looked, but Caitlin Clark seems to be adjusting pretty quickly. She's already set like a couple records as far as like fastest scoring so many points, so many assists, so many rebounds, all that kind of stuff, right? Like, she's already doing a lot already at this level. The first couple games were pretty bad, I'd say.
Well, she's not on a great team. They've only won 2 games this year, right?
Right, and that second game just happened. Against the Sky.
Yep.
You know, but still, like when you're like she's already scored 30 points in one game, you know, and she's averaging almost 17 points a game right now, which
how many minutes is she averaging?
Oh, I'll have to look that up.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what minutes. I think it's about 33 minutes a game.
Okay. But the thing that I thought was going to be was going to help her game was her ability to her assists, right?
Right.
Because we saw that at Iowa. Like when you watch her games, like the dimes that she would throw, like her assist should have been way up, but like players weren't able to finish on the other end. And I was really excited to see, you know, at the next level, someone who can deliver the ball the way that she can and see how that helps the rest of the team. So,
well, the problem is she's had the same problem here as she was having in Iowa, is that she delivers dimes, but the players aren't scoring on them.
They're not scoring.
They're still missing. You know, but with all that being said, she's still averaging 6.5 assists per game.
Yeah,
it's just that she should have more. The two, in my opinion, the two things about her game that a little surprising to me from like I don't want to say disappointed, but I thought she'd be better at. One is her 3-point percentage. Yeah. Right now she's shooting 31% from 3-point. I thought she'd do a little bit better than that. But I think the thing that's really hurting her is the turnovers. She's turning the ball over a lot, 5.5 times per game. And I just think that's got to be cleaned up. And I know she knows it too. I'm not saying anything that she doesn't know.
Of course she does. And I think part of that too is those that teams have decided they don't want her. She's not going to beat them. So, you know, they're playing her tighter. And I know, and I'm saying it that way on purpose, knowing without trying to be too controversial. I know that there are some calls that should have been made, maybe not, you know, but bottom line is, you know, they're playing her a lot tighter. And so she definitely has to take care of the ball. And we saw that even in Iowa. She had, like, when they played her tight, when teams played her tight, she had a lot of turnovers. Right? So that is something in her game that she'll have to fix. But who's that girl? The one she played at Stanford, Cameron Brink.
Yeah, Cameron Brink. Yeah.
Yep. You know, Angel Reese, even Kate Martin seems like, you know, she's having, you know, production with her team. So it is really nice to see some of this young talent out there getting an opportunity. And like I said, I think it's good for the NBA or the WNBA, I should say. But you know, they finally
for comparison's sake, Cameron Brink is averaging 9.1 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. So, like, as far as the statistically, that's all I'll say it as. Statistically, Caitlin Clark is having a way better rookie year than she is.
Right. But Brink is not a guard in that, right? Right?
No.
So you have to look at it position-wise as well, right? Like, to me, you know, I know who's Cardoza, right? I know she went down. She had an injury. I don't even know if she's back yet.
Her first game was against the Fever when last game with Caitlin.
This last game? Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know Angel Reese has been, you know...
I mean, Angel Reese has been playing fairly well, but it's mainly but she's been doing what she normally does. It's the whole, like, rebound game. Right? She's not going to score a ton of points. But when you're looking, I think she's getting, like, over 7 rebounds per game. Let me double check that. I think that's where she was at last time I looked. My bad. Almost 9 rebounds per game and scoring 10.5 points per game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's having a pretty good season.
not for sure.
I mean, it's early, obviously, because they only started beginning of May. It's only been a month into the season. Oh, mid-May. It
Yeah,
was the 15th, I think, was when the
I
season
think they've
started.
played 10 games total, and
Okay.
well, some teams have played 10. I think right now, Chicago for Angel has played 7.
Okay. So, bottom line is that you know all I can say is that I know it's a transition, right? But there is new blood in the league. There's new interest in the league, which is great, right? It's great for the league that there are fans in the stands and they're selling out these games. And like they moved one of the Indiana Fever's game. It was an away game. I think it was in Vegas. They moved it to a bigger venue because they'd sold out, right? So
And let's not forget that when teams are playing against Indiana, even their home, like Indiana's away at their stadium,
yep,
they're selling tickets for 3 times the normal cost of a normal game
yeah.
when Indiana's coming to town.
So it's like I said, it's good. I think it's that league. Hopefully, they can figure something out and start to capitalize on the popularity of those players. And maybe take something, some notes from the NBA and see how what they're doing. But they've got to start capitalizing on that talent that they have if they ever want the league to be a powerhouse and
Right.
continually like that, right?
Um, no, you're absolutely right. But I know we're getting to 32 minutes, and I want to mention something real quick about the Tigers.
Okay, yeah.
So going to the Tigers, I think at the beginning of the year, I was saying that I think the Tigers should move John Henry Malloy, that kind of trade him when his stock is high,
Yep.
and get what you can for him. But I might just go back on that.
Okay.
What one player that's continually disappointing me this year, and I'm sure not the only one, but Spencer Torkelson. Every time it looks like he's getting ready to come out of this slump, he just goes right back into it.
Yeah.
I can't understand his inability to barrel up fastballs at such a low rate. It just doesn't make any sense to me. His defense has always gotten better over the years. Don't get me wrong, but like still, that's not a reason to kind of keep him on the roster. I don't know like what you can even get for this guy, but here's the problem, which everybody already knows. He's batting 201, and his ops plus is 69. That's insane. I mean, his career is 90, and he's doing 69.
Yeah.
Right. His career batting average is 218. Like
Torkelson has always he's always come out since he's been with the Tigers. Hasn't he always kind of had a slow start, like first half of the season, and then he kind of comes on strong in the back half of the season?
Yes.
Is that a true statement? Yes.
It is a true statement, but okay. I'm not willing to do that no more.
Well, no, you can't. You got to have consistency all year.
This is his this is his third year in the league, right? Yep. He came up in 22. He had 20 the 159 games in 23, and now he's at 54 so far in this year 24.
Yep.
And everything I'm seeing is just bad. Like last year, he had 105 ops plus, and that's only because he had 34 doubles and 31 home runs, and that's what kind of like raised up his ops rating overall in order to get his ops plus above the 100 figure. And but you have to like, we have holes on this team. I don't know what we'll be able to get for Torkelson at this point. I'm sure there's people out there that still believe in him because I still think that the talent's there undeniably. I just don't know why he just can't transfer to production.
Right.
But at some point, you're gonna have to pull the plug on Torkelson, get what you can for him, because you have other people that are capable of playing first base. That's again shown that they can hit.
Yeah.
They may not have the power that Torkelson supposedly has, but again, if Torkelson doesn't hit, the power is useless anyways.
Correct.
So it's up again. I don't want to say like now. I'm just going to say you have to. If I was in charge of the Tigers, you really have to keep an eye on Torkelson between now and the trade deadline in July, and figure out what you want to do with him. And you have to be decisive at this point. Like you can't just keep waiting for this guy forever. You got to be decisive at some point and pull the trigger. And you know what? And if he goes on to another team and ends up having a Barry Bonds-like career, well, okay. Like I mean, it sucks, but like you just can't afford to keep waiting over and over and over again. Like you just can't do that.
Right.
This team like has a like they're not a terrible team. They just suffer from offensive production, and right now Torkelson's a problem when it comes to offensive production. So you got to see where else you can get that production from, and who knows, maybe you can get a player for Torkelson that might be able to come in and help you. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, whatever it might be, in a position of need, whether it's shortstop. Or catcher or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And last thing about the Tigers I want to point out is Matt Vierling over the course of this last week, going from Sunday of last week to Saturday. So that's going to be May 26th to June 1st. That was 6 games. Tigers were 3-3 in those games. But what was impressive was Vierling having 3 doubles, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, batting average of .462, a slugging of .1039, and an ops of .1520. And it's not just what he's doing at the plate, although you need that offensive production, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
It's also what he's doing in the field. During those 6 games, he's also playing in 4 different positions, all 3 outfielding positions as well as third base. And Vierling can play more than that too. Vierling can also play, second. He could play first. Vierling's really versatile, and I just think that he is one of like an underrated player right now for the Tigers, kind of going under the radar because of his versatility. And a lot of people may not know this, but if you look at the Major League leading right now in terms of batting average, Vierling is actually 17th in the league with a .295 before today's game. But he's 17th in the entire league in batting average.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to say about what Vierling is providing for the Tigers right now, and I'm glad that he's actually getting more game time, more at bats, because I think he does provide value for this team.
Yeah. Well, you talked about that last year at the end of the season about him, and then even coming into this season about like he could be the guy, right? Or be one of those things like he's going to be in the game, be in our lineup, and providing what you just talked about, right? But that versatility was just there.
Providing value because of his versatility. I did not think Vierling was going to be, and I don't expect Vierling to continue this hot streak, of course, all year. And his batting average is probably going to end up dropping. That'd be my guess. But still, he does provide value because of his defensive versatility, and he's not a complete dud when it comes to at bats.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish he could do more is get more walks. He's really bad when it comes to walking right now. He's way under even his career walk percentage, and he's one of the worst in the entire league in terms of walking. But as long as he keeps hitting, close to 300, I guess that doesn't really matter too much. But still, I would like to see him walk a little bit more to get on base more often.
Okay. So let's talk, since we're talking about Vierling, let's talk about our young player, Colt Keith. How do you think he's been doing?
Better, but I know today he went 0 for 4. But aside
he's 0 for 8 the last 2 games.
But if you look at the games before that, right?
Yeah.
Like you can actually start seeing him produce better numbers.
Yeah.
So, like if excuse me, so going back, I don't know, even only back to May 20th, I'd say.
Yeah.
And if even including the last two games, well, I'm going back to June 1st. I can't include today's game yet, but he's still batting 342 going
Yeah.
back to May 20th,
Going back for
which
that time
is
frame. Yeah.
yeah, right. So I mean, 342 on base percentage of 386, his ops of 947. He's got 2 home runs during that time and 3 doubles. So he's getting some really good at bats.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what's happened in the last couple of games specifically, but I mean, during that time he raised his batting average from 197 up to a 238.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of work, and a lot of it has to do with the change in his swing as well. Like he's still working at it, and you can see a change in his swing between beginning of the year and now, and it seemed to have paid off, but. Okay. We'll see what happens, going forward, of course.
All right. And then since you talked about that, I know we sent this guy down, but Parker Meadows. I'm looking at his minor league stats. He's got 78 at-bats, 22 hits, 4 homers. He's got a 282 average, 376, and the ops is 927.
And it's completely respectable in terms of minor league stats.
Yep.
Right. But
because I know when he went down, I thought we brought it up or mentioned it. If we didn't, we talked about it offline. About how the minor league pitching is really not going to help him at the major league level because it's just not at the same level, the pitching. So unless it's down, hey, get your confidence up kind of thing, kid, and I think we can bring you back up after the All-Star break deal. But yeah, it's just, I mean, you're seeing the big difference because he had 73 at-bats to start the season for the Tigers, and he only had 7 hits. He had an average of 0.96, right? Yeah. So, yeah, obviously that is not good.
No.
Right?
No.
And so it is good to see, that he's getting the bat on the ball. He's getting on base, right? He's got, what do he have? He's only got 9 strikeouts in those 78 at bats. I don't know if that's a lot, I guess, but he's got 9 strikeouts.
21 strikeouts in AAA.
Stolen bases. I'm sorry. My bad. I was looking at the wrong number.
Which is that was, and the reason I knew that is because that's exactly what I was going to comment on next.
Yep.
Is if you've looked at like his strikeout numbers, I think that's always kind of been where improvements been needed.
Yeah.
And and so far we haven't really seen that improvement. Even going down in AAA, his strikeout percentage is still pretty high. Yeah. We need better strikeout numbers from him, and I think if he's able to reduce the amount of strikeouts that he has in AAA, I think that's when you can start seeing him get called up again and get a second chance. Okay. Because if he has better, getting bat on the ball skills in AAA, it's going to translate to the major league level, and hopefully that means less strikeouts there, so put the ball in play with more chances of getting on base.
All right. So, and I know we're right about 44 minutes, but we'll call this our closeout of the show. I want to hear, because there's been more media coverage about, hey, the Tigers need to get and dump Javi Baez, right? Or they're putting the ownership on the block. You're putting the manager on the block, like. So, what is your prediction with that? I know we've said this, but I wanted you to kind of go over it one more time, for those that hadn't heard it yet.
My prediction for Baez, like in
Yeah.
terms of
As far as how long does he stay with the team? Do we get rid of him before the trade deadline? Do we cut him at the end of the season?
the problem I have with getting rid of Baez is, again, we don't have anyone ready in our farm system to play short. That's that's it. Like I don't know. Um, Look, I know Baez is actively hurting the team. The only time he's actually decent is when there's runners in scoring position. And like today, he got 2 RBIs in the 10th inning to help the Tigers pull out an extra inning win over Boston, right? Like
Okay.
he's pretty decent when it comes to runners in scoring position. And that was his only hit in like 5 at bats.
Yeah.
Again, not good, but runners in scoring position, he seems to come through. And that's where the rest of the Tigers seem to be terrible at. But even taking all that out, right? Like
Yep.
it's that still is not worth his contract. I'm not saying that's worth keeping him on the team. I'm just throwing that out there in terms of just trying to be fair and evaluating Baez.
Well,
All
I
right.
was gonna say that's the nicest thing I've ever heard you say about Javi Baez in 2 years.
um, but
I mean,
the thing is, we just don't have another player ready. Kreidler is
okay.
probably the closest. I think he was down today, if not mistaken. I think he was playing today on a rehab assignment. So I'm hoping
Okay.
that he's on the 40-man roster. Maybe he might get the call up, and we can see what he can do in the majors.
Okay.
He is pretty good defensively, so I don't think we would suffer from that type from his fielding. I just think,
Mm-hmm.
again, I just don't really think he's that good of a hitter. Like
Yep.
I know he can't be worse than Baez, but
Yeah, well,
like I just don't know what we do with Baez. I mean,
right.
yes, nobody's going to take him. Nobody's going to take the contract. We got to just dump him, DFA him, get rid of him completely. We
Yep.
pay him the money, whatever it is. I totally get that. But how
Okay.
long he's going to be on the team, I think that has to do a lot with how Kreidler performs. If Kreidler performs great, then maybe we might see him off the team towards the later part of this year. If
Okay.
Kreidler comes in and just doesn't do anything, again, what are we going to do?
Well,
We don't have a replacement.
okay. So I know we have a lot of money tied up in Javi Baez, right? And I don't imagine we're going to be able to trade for somebody mid-season to get a guy in here to play shortstop. Okay. But what about available free agents at the end of the year? How would you feel about investing more money in a shortstop when you know you'd still have to pay Javi Baez?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Like the
I
ownership
don't.
has to want to be able to spend the money. I get it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like you've got guaranteed money that's already invested in Javi Baez, who's not going to be on your team, right? And then about bringing in, trying to sign a free agent to come in.
I mean, you got some pretty good free agents after this year,
Okay.
but um, again, we don't know. We just don't know enough about them as far as
Right.
like what they want to do, if they're going to resign or not. We're just
Right.
going to have to kind of, again, take a wait and see. Um,
Sure. But I just wanted to kind of get your feel for, would you be okay with the fact that, we'd have that much money wrapped up in a position?
yes, we need to. I mean,
Okay. Well, because that gives us time to continue to build our farm system. Because you keep talking about the less expensive version of developing your own players, and we just don't have somebody in the system that's ready yet, right? So what do? You have to go out and get somebody that can fill the position until you have a guy that's ready to fill the position, right? And
yes.
Baez was supposed to be that guy. He's obviously not the guy. I know you never liked him from the beginning. You thought it was a bad contract from day one,
Mhm.
right? You made that perfectly clear, and that's like it's warranted when you look at how bad he hurts the team offensively,
Mhm.
right? So on the other side, do you go out and you sign somebody to another $100 million deal to play shortstop for you? I mean, you still have
Yes.
roughly 65 million or 70 million you still got to pay Baez.
It's what you got to do. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know what else.
No, I get it, but that's what I'm trying to.
Keep a big hole, I guess.
Yes, because you talk about the the three positions up the middle, and you've mentioned that a lot. Catcher, shortstop, center field, right?
And second, but yes,
and yeah. So those positions right up the middle, they're vital pieces, right? Defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you also want to be able to get some production, right, from those players on a more consistent basis. So,
yes.
We talked about Parker Meadows, when he was playing center field for us, right? Was it center field?
Yep.
Yes. And we sent him down because he wasn't, obviously he wasn't hitting the ball, right? We know where we are with our catchers. We have a couple, they're okay, I guess. They're doing what they can for what they got. And then, we're still hurting in the middle. So, to me, it makes sense that you'd have to go out and spend the money to get a player to come in that can give you both, right? That's going to be a plus defender and a plus offensive side, right? I'm not talking about someone that's going to go out there and hit 313, 315, but 275 would be awesome right now.
Would be.
Right?
Yeah.
You get a shortstop that come in and give you 275, 100 RBIs, be awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
There. I mean, you have so Tampa Bay Rays, they got Junior Caminero, and they have one of my favorite shortstop prospects in Carson Williams. They already have their third base guy. So you might have, I know the Rays pride themselves in versatility, but yet they haven't moved Carson Williams anywhere. Like he's only played shortstop in the minors. Like they want him at shortstop.
Right.
So, what do you do with Junior Caminero, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do you put him? Third base is already full. He's like, you already got your third baseman. You got your future shortstop. So where does he play? And so for me, I don't know. Like, he does have some Caminero. I'm talking about major league experience already. He played a little bit in 2023, but I don't know. I would definitely at least make a phone call, right? See if they'd be willing to move any one of those guys. And again, if they don't mind, like maybe you can make a package, something like a Torkelson, like we've kind of already, kind of talked about.
Yep.
Maybe a pitcher, whether it's a younger pitcher, like maybe Casey Mize. Casey Mize is now 26, 27 years old. I think he's 27 now. And he hasn't pitched out that bad. But maybe someone like Mize that still has some control left, some years of control left. And then, or maybe someone like Jack Flaherty. I don't think they take Flaherty only because they're the Rays and they're looking more for like, younger guys with team control. But again, I don't know. I'm just saying like it's worth a call anyways, just to see. And those are teams you have to contact, teams that have a backlog of players at a certain position. Mets might be another team in terms of a backlog at shortstop. They have their current shortstop, sign them to a long-term deal. So, like other shortstops in their farm system, maybe you might be able to get one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so when you're saying like, is that possible, right? Like, can we get one maybe for next year? And yes, it is possible. I just don't. But see, shortstop's such a premium position, right? It's like trying to trade for a quarterback.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to give up a quarterback because it's a premium position. And if you do, you're going to have to pay out the nose for it.
Right.
And that's kind of the same thing with a shortstop. So I just don't know. I mean, no one really wants to give one up. If you do, you're gonna pay with a bunch of prospects, a bunch of players, and maybe it's worth it. I just have to see what the package would be, but it's possible.
Okay. All right. And that's why I guess I was looking at more free agencies wise, right, and not so much trade wise, because as you've talked about our prospect system and the farm system that we have, like we're finally we're starting to be able to develop players better, right? So
Yes.
trying to give up, I'm not a big fan of trying to give up prospects, even pretty much any sport, because you hurt your team in the long run when you do that, right? So you set yourself back 4 or 5 years at a position if you do that. So, go ahead.
What's interesting is the top free agent for shortstop next year is likely to be Willie Adames.
Okay.
He only signed a 1-year contract with the Milwaukee Brewers. All right.
Okay.
But he's likely to be the top player next year. This year so far, he's averaging right around 260. He's got 8 stolen bases. His ops is 788. He's got 9 home runs, 17 doubles. Like, he's having a pretty decent year statistically on the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
What I find slightly funny about that is he used to be a Tiger. The Tigers are the ones that signed him to a contract way back in 2012, of all things, believe it or not.
Okay.
But in 2014, the Tigers traded him to Tampa Bay when they got like David Price and stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's when they made the run. So he stayed with Tampa Bay for a while until he was traded to Milwaukee back in 21. And he's been with Milwaukee ever since. But yeah, I just found it funny that the top shortstop next year used to be a Tiger. Like, he began his professional career with the Tigers, the minors.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, he's already got 12 seasons, 13 seasons then? So he's a little on the older side.
Well, no, he'll be 29 next year.
Oh, he's doing 29. Okay.
It's just that they signed him when he was really young, as far as
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Nope, that's all I got. I'm just trying to keep the numbers together in my head. So obviously he's still, because you don't want to. Well, teams do this across all the leagues. They'll bring in a veteran player, while they try to get a young player up to speed, right?
Yep.
But nope, that is an interesting play, I guess. If you see, and you end up getting a guy back that you had, and but sometimes that's what it takes, right?
Well, and you have to think about what position the Tampa Bay Rays were in, and this is where I was and this is one reason why I brought up this him specifically, is because one, he was a former Tiger, but Tampa Bay was in position where they already had their shortstop of the future at that point in time. It was he that shall not be named, right?
Yes.
But so they traded him away to get some pitching, like Drew Rasmussen. But that's what they wanted because they had their shortstop. And so maybe, again, they have their shortstop now there in Tampa. Maybe you can do something similar. Again, I don't know. I'm just, again, throwing stuff out there, right? Like, that's what you got to focus on, is guys that are kind of stuck in the minors or, not going to get much playing time because of the people in front of them. And that's another reason why, when we're talking earlier about catcher prospects, I immediately went to the Dodgers because they got Will Smith. And they also have 2 high-ranking prospects at catcher right behind Will Smith. And what are they going to do with 2 of them? those are the guys you got to look at. So Tampa Bay has kind of right now a little bit of a cluster at shortstop. So maybe you can make something happen. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but all right. So that's pretty much all I really wanted to kind of throw out to everybody. You know, we're just past that 1 hour mark. But yeah, it's an update on where the Tigers are, some of the players that we've seen that have been in, in the news, we'll call it, I guess. The he who should not be named was actually just recently. I just saw something there because they extended his
leave.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah. So, for those of you that are watching, listening, appreciate that. And I know we keep saying this, and we do honestly try to get together more often than once a week. There are times where I start to think about, I'm like, and it's before I know it, it's Friday. But yeah, we are definitely trying to be more consistent about what we're doing and even kind of get a little bit more out there.
But we hope to see you next time. And until then, we'll talk to you then.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.